Hey, it's Patrick from Apex Wealth Collective. Now, don't get me wrong, I love covered call ETFs as much as the next guy, but not all covered call ETFs are made equal. There are good ones, and there's a lot of bad ones. And even if they're performing a very similar strategy on the same underlying indexes and stocks, there can be massive discrepancies in performance over longer periods of time. You know how people always say, compounding money for more wealth? Well, bad investments can compound destruction in a portfolio as well, making retirement or financial freedom seem that much further away. So, last video, if you guys watched, we talked about my favorite Canadian covered call ETFs that I invest in personally. So if you want to watch that, there will be a link in the description for that one. But today, we're going to look at some covered call ETFs that I think are just straight up bad investments and have evidently performed terribly, or at least underperformed many other covered call funds out there in the same time frame. Now, before we do that, I want to preface this video with the following. I'm comparing all these bad covered call ETFs to what I consider to be the best well-rounded covered call ETF out there based off of total return and just consistency. And that covered call ETF we're going to use as a benchmark is HDIV.TO. Now, HDIV.TO is a Canadian listed covered call ETF that sells covered calls on a wide range of industries and has a pretty good broad-based selection of Canadian stocks. And now it's also an enhanced covered call product, which means that it has 25% leverage built into it in order to squeeze out a little more yield and performance. Now, most covered call ETFs underperform their underlying stocks and indexes that they track, and that's completely normal. So if you haven't invested in one before and you're curious about covered call ETFs and you're asking, well, what's the catch? Well, this is it. Limiting upside growth in stock price is the sacrifice you pay to have consistent monthly income. There is no free lunch in finance. So as I like to say, for every gimme, there's a gotcha. But from my experience, as I will show you guys in the charts, HDIV.TO keeps its volatility in check and leads the pack in total returns. And I'm guessing part of that is because of the added 25% leverage, but it still stands. Now that we have the benchmark set, let's introduce the popular products that you have been told are amazing by many different influencers and YouTubers, but turns out they're actually pretty bad investment decisions. So first up, as I like to call them, the OG covered call giants of the US market. I mean, they're still covered call giants to this day, and they are XYLD, QYLD, and JEPI. Now, I cannot tell you how many countless videos there are out there on YouTube about these products and how great they are. Wrongo. They are hot trash products. All three of them. Some of the worst performing covered call ETFs that I have ever seen, yet they're probably the most advertised in the entire covered call ETF space, both American and Canadian. So to give you an idea of how big they really are, XYLD's assets under management is $3 billion. Now that's quite a lot. However, QYLD is a staggering $8.3 billion. Now, if you think those numbers are big, these two numbers are child's play compared to JEPI's assets under management. JEPI is sitting at, get this, $41 billion in assets under management. Insanity. It's truly mind-boggling. So let's add these three to the charts and compare them to our benchmark HDIV. Now, let's forget about total return for a second and focus on just the dips in the market and how each fund acts accordingly. Now, with any dips in the market, you'll notice that XYLD, QYLD, and JEPI simply cannot keep up with our benchmark HDIV. They just drift further and further away because they participate in the entire downside of the dips and participate in very little recovery to the upside. They just don't recover from dips in the market, severely kneecapping their growth. And this is because they sell at the money covered call options, so they give no room for the stocks to breathe. Now, over the last 3 years that HDIV has existed, it has outperformed in total return terms XYLD, QYLD, and JEPI by almost 2x the return, or just over 2x the return, I should say. That's massive. And that's only 3 years of history. What will that divide be like in 10 years or 15 years if this trend continues? It could be catastrophic to your portfolio performance. Now for Canadians, it's even worse, because if we held these American products in our non-tax advantaged accounts, or even our TFSAs, we get penalized an additional 15% withholding tax on top of the regular tax that we would already pay for each distribution. Talk about lighting your money on fire. So now, my fellow Canadians, you didn't think I'd forget about you, did you? Because next up, we have some Canadian covered call ETFs that I see touted as, these great beginner-friendly covered call ETFs to own. And they are ZWC, ZWB, and ZWH. Again, all very poor products. Pretty much as bad as the covered call giants from the US that we just talked about. Now, the biggest offender of the bunch, ZWC, has returned on average 6.36% per year since inception. Ouch. While ZWH has returned approximately 8.9% per year, and ZWB returning about 10.9% annually. But you look at the chart, they still all suck. The yield isn't high enough, the stock growth isn't high enough, and it just ends in underperformance that compounds year after year after year. Now, I'm probably going to get a lot of dislikes for this one, but the numbers don't lie. Now, I get it. Recently, this fund has had its structure changed to try and improve its performance, so we will have to see with some time if they made the right decisions. But I don't have a bias. I'm a mercenary when it comes to investing, and I'm here to make as much money as I possibly can, and I will use the best products that perform and stay away from products that don't. Regardless of how many YouTubers call it, the covered call ETF to own in your portfolio, just because it contains the US market. Do they perform well? No? Well, it's not for me then. And it shouldn't be for you either. So the honorable mention for today's Canadian covered call ETF to stay away from, at least for now, is the beloved child, HYLD. Now, HYLD is probably fund number one for many Canadian YouTuber covered call ETF channels, but the performance just doesn't match the hype at all. HDIV runs circles around HYLD's performance. Now, granted, HYLD does beat out ZWC and ZWH and ZWB performance, so it is a better fund than those three, but since HYLD's inception, HDIV has returned 52%, while HYLD whimpered along at a 32% return. A 20% difference in total just over 3 years. And if that trend continues, HYLD will quickly become forgotten. So I'm hoping, for the sake of the Canadian passive income community, that things change around for the better with the recent prospectus changes. Now, with these changes, they have shuffled around some products which they own within the fund to get better performance and create less fees for the investor. That's great. Now, those changes were made in February 2024, and since that prospectus change, not much has changed price-wise or total return-wise, which is why I choose to stay away from HYLD, at least for the time being. Now, here's just a quick chart just to add HYLD to all the other Canadian covered call ETFs we talked about today. As you can see, it outperforms ZWB and ZWC and ZWH, but still underperforms HDIV. So, in conclusion, unfortunately, in the covered call passive income space, many influencers want to claim that a lot of these products are all very similar and provide very similar results. So it doesn't matter which one you choose at the end of the day. But as you can see, that couldn't be further away from the truth. You really have to be picky when it comes to choosing which covered call ETFs to include in your passive income portfolio, because it could cost you a lot of missed opportunity if you choose the wrong ones. Now, if you want to go back and see which covered call ETFs I use, watch my last video, pinned somewhere here or in the description. And lastly, if you'd like to get more involved in your investing journey, join my $2 a month private school community linked in my channel bio. I would really appreciate you liking this video if you found it useful or informative. Leave a comment if you have any questions, any concerns, or just wanted to say hi. And subscribe if this content resonates with you. Now, that's all for today. I'm Patrick with Apex Wealth Collective. Take care. We'll see you soon.